I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Russia-Ukraine war. France to send extra howitzers. Military casualties from both sides. Total 200,000 feet as it happened. Western allies appear to have retreated from supplying F-16 and other Western fighter jets to Ukraine over the past 24 hours. Joe Biden, U.S. President, when asked at the White House late on Monday if his country would provide F-16s, answered simply, no. Although he emphasized on Tuesday morning he would remain in discussions with Ukraine about its weapons requests. The UK has also said supplying Western jets was not practical. These are sophisticated pieces of equipment, a Downing Street spokesperson said. We do not think it is practical to send those jets into Ukraine. They added that Prime Minister Rishi Sunak supports accelerating support for Ukraine after completing a review that a prolonged stalemate in the conflict would benefit Russia. Volodymyr Zelensky's most senior advisor suggested on Monday that Poland is willing to supply Ukraine with the F-16 fighters. Andriy Yermak said Ukraine had received positive signals from Warsaw in a telegram posting, although Poland's Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, was careful to stress his own country would only act in consultation with NATO allies. Ukraine has said it will continue lobbying, arguing that the West had repeatedly said no to supplying weapons such as tanks before relenting over time. Alexei Reznikov, the defense minister, said on a visit to Paris, all types of assistance at the beginning went through the no stage. This means no, as of today. Reznikov's French counterpart, Sébastien Lecornu, reiterated there was no taboo on the supply of jets, echoing similar remarks made by Emmanuel Macron on Monday evening. France also said it would donate 12 Caesar howitzers to Ukraine after the summit between the two ministers. Lecornu said the pair discussed training Ukrainian pilots to fly French fighter jets but that no decision has yet been taken. Ukraine expects to receive 120 to 140 tanks in a first wave of deliveries from a coalition of 12 countries, the foreign minister has said. Dmytro Kuleba added that the first tranche would include the German Leopard 2, the British Challenger 2 and the US M1 Abrams tanks, and that Ukraine was also really counting on supplies of French Leclerc tanks being agreed. The number of heavy tanks publicly pledged to Ukraine appears to be well short of the 321 that Vadim Omelchenko, Ukraine's ambassador to France, stated last week. Russian forces are preparing for a renewed attack on Ukraine imminently, most likely in the coming months, according to analysts. Citing Western, Ukrainian and Russian sources, the U.S. think tank the Institute for the Study of War said Moscow was preparing for an imminent offensive, pointing to remarks by the NATO Secretary General, Jens Stoltenberg, who said there were no signs that Vladimir Putin was preparing for peace. Russian forces continued attacks on positions across the front line near the eastern cities of Bakhmut and Donetsk. Moscow's troops have been pounding Bakhmut in the Donbass for several months, but in recent days the invaders appeared to have opened up a new effort to gain ground around the village of Vuhledar, 30 miles southwest of Donetsk city. The situation in Bakhmut and Vuhledar was very tough, with both areas and other parts of the Donetsk region under constant Russian attacks, President Zelensky said. Russian troops have probably developed its probing attacks around the towns of Pavlivka and Vuhledar into a more concerted assault, the UK's Ministry of Defence said in its latest intelligence update. Russian commanders are likely aiming to develop a new axis of advance into Ukrainian-held Donetsk Oblast and to divert Ukrainian forces from the heavily contested Bakhmut sector. There is a realistic possibility that Russia will continue to make local gains in the sector, it said. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko has said his country is already ready to offer more assistance to Russia in its war against Ukraine. Speaking during a state visit to Zimbabwe, a fellow ally of Russia, Lukashenko did not specify what that help would entail. It comes as Belarus and Russia are conducting a week-long session of training for the joint command of their regional grouping of forces. Military casualties on both sides in the war have totaled about 200,000, a Western official has said, with a similar number killed and wounded on either side. A higher proportion of Russians had been killed, however, the official added, because they have been on the offensive, meaning that they've suffered more fatalities than the Ukrainians on balance. The US has accused Russia of not complying with its obligation under a nuclear arms control treaty by not allowing inspectors to visit its nuclear weapon sites. Russia's refusal to allow inspections under the New START treaty prevents the United States from exercising important rights under the treaty and threatens the viability of US-Russian nuclear arms control, a US State Department spokesperson said.